under anymore? Um, it is good question. Again, I cough every time I talk. I believe it is the 22nd of May 2016, approximately 3:29 a.m. in El Paso, Texas, which would be Mountain Time. Um, just going to go through some local issues here that have been happening in El Paso, Texas. I don't like talking local issues. I don't like living local issues. I don't like listening to the news media. It's just an exercise in insanity. Um, However, a while back, I don't, maybe a month, I was home after conducting business, maybe 9 hours, and I run into this police barricade. If you happen to know El Paso, Texas, you know that Alabama Street and Piedra Street run parallel to each other with two smaller streets in the middle. There was some kind of an event that involved bicycles. I don't, excuse me, I need to move something that really makes didn't know I was going to hit my guitar, but we'll just drop that there. You don't need to know what that's about. So, you got Alabama, you got Piedras, you got the two middle streets, and I'm going to say approximately 4 miles. These police officers barricaded everything. What they were doing apparently was happening on Alabama Street. But whatever was happening on Alabama Street that involved bicycles, I interpreted as a bicycle race, but they saw very few bicycles. Uh, Obviously required that Alabama Street, Elm Street, Louisiana Street, and Piedra Street be blocked off completely for approximately 4 miles. Uh, I live in the center there. There was no way to get to where I live from Piedras or Alabama or Elm Street or Louisiana Street. And I see no legal reason why any police department can just make a 4 mile rectangle and close off all the streets in that rectangle if the event is happening on one street. Piedra Street is a very trafficked area, and I'm pretty sure they weren't holding their event there because in the process of my uh, conducting business earlier, I had driven up Alabama Street and I had dropped off a car of business on Alabama Street, and there was a police officer on the corner with a barricade looking at me like, "Well, what are you doing here?" Like, "Well, I drove up this," and I didn't answer him. I mean, I would have answered him, telling him, "Well, I drove up the street. Now I'm parking and letting the customer out." So I knew what it was that they had barricaded. I went up Alabama Street, wasn't going to try to confront the police officer, so I made a right turn over to Piedra Street. And on my way down, I could see all the barricades on Piedra Street. Excuse me. Now, when I finished my day, I came up and was going to try to find a way home. I knew they had the bottom, the beginning of the street blocked off, so I couldn't go there. So I drove on one of the side streets off of Alabama and then turned to where the street that I live on, and there was a police officer there. I didn't record him, and I want to say this right now. I'm not one of these people driving around hoping to find police officers and harass them and get them to behave bad and then record them and put them on YouTube. My principal position as it relates to law enforcement in El Paso, which includes the El Paso Police Department, is I don't want anything to do with them. I want them to stay as far away from me, and I'll stay as far away from them as possible. This was not a situation where it was unavoidable. In order for me to get to my home, I'm not going through here. I don't care where you live. Drive around. Now, a reasonable person understands is what drive around. You got these other three streets blocked for 4 miles. What is there to drive around? He literally told me, "You go through, I'm going to give you a citation." Okay. So I drove around the way, saying, well, maybe there is another way. And again, another police officer, just the next street up, same damn thing. And I told him, you know what, just give me your supervisor. And that's when I started recording. I could have recorded the first police officer, but again, I'm not in the mindset of looking for police officers to harass so I can record them and then put them on YouTube. Again, my principal position is you people who cannot be adults and mentally healthy and respect the members of the community who work for the El Paso Police Department, stay on your side, I'll stay on mine. No big deal. For the majority of the time, I don't have to see an El Paso police. I mean, I see the police cars pass by. I don't have to see them, don't have to talk to them, just have to interact with them. And if I have to interact with them, they're not going to like what they get because I've lost my patience with these individuals. But through the comments, the reason I'm speaking of it here, because through the comments on YouTube, because I did post the video, I felt I had a moral obligation to post it. So many people are missing the point. When a city has an area blocked off for a parade, I live in El Paso, Texas. I know how they block off a very long parade. You're still given alternative routes. There's still a way to go around it. I know because my business is to drive people from point A to point B. And there was no driving around. I couldn't go to the left and then come over on the top and then come back down. Now, somebody mentioned that I was wrong on a comment. And if I'm wrong, why did they let me through? I was recording them. The video isn't a great video because I wasn't out hunting police officers. I was trying to get to my home. And when it was after the fact that I realized these law enforcement officers were not going to be reasonable people, that I said, well, I'm going to read and give them grief. And the grief that I'm talking about is demanding my rights. I have the right to. I'm not suspected of having committed a crime. I think that after 9 or so hours of conducting business, I should be able to come home and relax, have an enjoyable meal, watch some stupid stuff on TV or maybe on the internet. You can't just pick a 4-mile rectangle and say nobody can come and go from here because we're having a little bicycle race over there. I'm sorry, that's criminal. I'm pretty sure many laws were broken. There was another incident when I'm coming home, and this is ironic that this was done in a school zone. Coming home, I usually come home because I have to, otherwise I would be in that area. Same thing, same day, coming home, want to relax, and there's a police officer checkpoint. When Mr. Rick Perry was governor of Texas, I forget the name of his attorney general, at least for, excuse me, at least for the moment. He had the governor and the attorney general had a standing order that police searches, what do you call those? Not police searches, driver's license and insurance checkpoints were illegal. Even buys were illegal because they were constitutional individuals, and if you have not committed a crime, you're not suspected of committed a crime, you should not be stopped by law enforcement. And that's the issue. The mere act of being on a public road is not a suspicious act. The mere act of driving your vehicle on a public road is not a suspicious act. Therefore, the police have no reasonable suspicion, and I always forget the other one. I mean, I should write them down. But they have no reasonable suspicion you're committing a crime. Just because you're driving a vehicle, it should be illegal. It is against the United States Constitution. And political leaders always use the phrase privilege. They seem to forget that it's a privilege that people give to themselves. The people are in charge. You politicians and bureaucrats work for the people, okay? It is a privilege that people give to themselves. The right to drive, have a driver's license, use it as an ID, That's a privilege we give to ourselves. It's not something that the government is giving us. It is something that the government is administrating. And that's the point of why, even though I want to stay so far away from El Paso police officers, that these issues have to be debated, have to be spoken of. Moving to the next issue, uh, Uber, the they've called themselves so many times, but this supposed car sharing, and this is how I see car sharing in relation to the debate on Uber. You and I know each other, and we're talking on the phone. Mention that I'm going to a particular business area, and then you tell me, "Well, I'm going near there. Would you mind picking me up?" I said, "No, I would not mind." That's car sharing. When you have an app and you're picking people up for profit, you're operating a taxi. In El Paso, Texas, through their vehicle, what is called their vehicle for hire municipal ordinances, it is illegal for anybody to operate a vehicle as a taxi when it does not have the proper permits and licenses. Uber vehicles are taxis, and they're operating without proper licenses. And when Uber came to El Paso, Texas, they were fully aware that there were laws that they were breaking. I mean, I know that people like Uber, but what kind of a society do we want to live in? I hope that we want to live in a society of law and order, where people have to follow the law, because by following the law, we contribute to the status of society and we contribute to the stability of society. We don't want to live in chaos. We don't want to live in anarchy. I told the person, listen, if Uber had come into El Paso, Texas, followed all the laws, and then worked to change the laws, they, they would. The fact that they came into El Paso, Texas, fully aware that there were laws that they were going to be breaking, and started business anyways, is not honorable. Uh, you can like a service, but these people are telling you their morality. They're telling you that they're bigger than the law. They don't have to follow the law, and they can do what they want. We don't want that in this society. If there's a law you don't like, work to change it. Now, there's here in El Paso, Texas, there's been a debate. Excuse me. The more I speak, the more I cough. Okay, so um, in this debate, it started in September of last year, 2015. And a lot of things were going back and forth. I'll be honest with you. I was not paying attention because for me, I've been here for over 40 years. I've been in El Paso, Texas, in the nation of the United States of America for over 40 years. And eventually you just say that this is insanity. It's worse than a circus. It's a circus of psychotic clowns. They don't have the idea of the basics. I was thinking to myself, a person should be required to take a 200 question test on the United States Constitution before they're even allowed to run for public office. The values of America are great values: freedom, liberty, independence, the pursuit of happiness, self reliance, personal responsibility. That no one should be getting in your way as long as you're not harming anybody and all you're trying to do is feed yourself and feed your family in an honorable way. No one should be getting in your way. And in the interest of fair disclosure, I have not lost any money. I mean, let me qualify my statement. I have lost customers because of Uber. The last 2 years, 2.5 years, I have been making more money in the taxi industry than I've ever made. So Uber has not harmed me. And for a while there, I would laugh at Uber because really it's a joke. It's part-time people uh, going out when they're in the mood to work. Now, I'm pretty sure there's some people who are more than part-time, full-time, have full-time responsibilities, need to earn more than $700 a week, and they probably hustle hard. I've told people that they would be surprised that I calculate more than 50% of Uber's partners in El Paso, Texas, were taxi drivers. Therefore, if you have an attitude against taxi drivers in El Paso, there's a good chance that the person who is driving you used to be a taxi driver. um, so just an automatic bad attitude. But I honestly do not mind how other people look at me because I uh, validate myself. I know what I'm attempting to accomplish. I know what I want to do in life. I set my own standards. And unfortunately, we live in a society where we're to laugh at that guy and laugh at that guy and laugh at this other guy. And we spend the majority of our time trashing people and contributing to the negativity, which is fine. If you want to laugh at me, that's fine. I probably make more money than the majority of people in El Paso, Texas. There's going to be a change, and that change may actually put me out of business. But since I've been in the taxi business, and I'm going to get off of this because the only thing that mattered to me in this debate was with the lack of honor in the mayor of El Paso, Texas, the city representatives of El Paso, Texas, and the city manager of El Paso, Texas. Uber came into El Paso, Texas, fully aware they would be breaking the law, that they would be breaking the law of the vehicle for hire municipal ordinances of the city of El Paso, Texas. And they started their business operations anyway, which to me tells me they have no honor. They should have done it the right way. And then they should have went about changing the laws they didn't like. That has honor. Okay. And so on the question of Uber, that's my principal statement. On the question of city leaders allowing criminal activity, being fully aware of criminal activity and allowing it to continue to happen, that's rather concerning. There was people in the last what are called here, what do they call them here? City council meetings. There were representatives talking glowingly about Uber, talking about how they praise Uber to their children. Why don't they understand that they're praising a criminal enterprise? Uber knows that there are laws restricting what they are doing in the areas that they are working in. They started their operations knowing there were laws they were breaking. They continue to operate knowing they're breaking laws. And you have these adults who are political leaders in an area praising a criminal enterprise to their children. I hope they don't want to give their children the impression that you can break the law as long as you're as popular as Uber. Because that's ultimately what you're telling children. You're not telling them that the service is great and that they're better than taxi drivers, which they're not. I used to Uber cars. Sorry, they're not better than taxi drivers. But after all is said and done, your children will be fully aware that those Uber companies started their business breaking the law. And if you as an adult praise a company that started by breaking the law, you're giving the message to your children that it's okay to break the law. I don't care how popular Uber is. My second principal statement on Uber is that they're literally just a cheap service for cheap people. You're look at your calendar. 2016. You want prices of 1950. And now I'm coming to my real principal point here of this whole thing. There are a lot of people that have been working for a very long time to manipulate your thought process, to manipulate what you think, and to manipulate what you feel. A lot of people feel great about Uber, but have very poor intellectual understanding of Uber, that they are a criminal enterprise, and that their Uber partners are criminals and part of that criminal enterprise. We, as individuals, as people, have a responsibility to be good and to contribute to a good society. When I was setting this video essay up in my mind, and I don't know how I'm going to have to do it. Apparently, things are falling apart that I'm going to have to be more consistent, because the message that we are in charge is the correct message. The message that the majority of us are good and decent people is the right message. The message that we don't have to get angry, we don't have to hate anybody, is a good message. The message that we're fighting the good fight and we need to fight it with dignity and grace is a good message. You know, being a decent person and being a good person and being a respectful person, a nice person, you know, a polite person is the right way to do it. In the last month or so, in my meditations on of society, I have come to the conclusion, or at least God has revealed, everything that we don't like is happening. We're not humble people. We're not meek people. We're not nice people. We look at each other with trick, smiling at one another. We're looking at each other like we want to go to war. Now there are people. Let's take Mr. Putin of Russia, for instance, who are evil. What is it? Paul Ryan is evil. Mitch McConnell is evil. They're politically corrupted. They're not working for the benefit of the average American. They're working for the benefit of the average donor, knowing that Americans are going to be harmed. National debt is going to harm people. You want to see a failed state? You want to see what happens to a country when they go bankrupt? Look at Venezuela. I was reading not much, not paying that much attention because, excuse me. Unfortunately, when you do it to yourself, you have no one to blame. Fortunately, when you do it to yourself, you have no one to blame. And sometimes you have to suffer the consequences of poor decisions to understand the value of good decisions. In America, the people of America have a great opportunity because they haven't had their morality completely corrupted. There are still good and decent people who understand right from wrong. And it is essential that those of us who understand right from wrong fight the good fight, but we fight it with a smile and with a heart filled of joy. We have the right to be against Hillary Clinton. The American people have the right to be against illegal immigration. America belongs to Americans, not Mexicans. Let me say that again. America belongs to Americans, not Mexicans. So you have the right that this country be administrated by your political leaders in the manner that is beneficial to you, that helps you. Now, I'm saying that fully aware that we have reached a time in American society where many people are suffering from poor morality, have poor ethics, don't work, have excused themselves from the responsibility of earning a living. And the rest of us who are producing, who are making money, are having to carry their weight. You can only do that for so long. I used to have a simple percentage balance that you need, excuse me, you need 75% of society, of the members of a society, to be productive members of a society. There's going to be that 25% that for whatever reason just cannot make it. And I do feel bad for them. I have had personal crises in my life. I know what it is to want a certain job. I know what it is to have a dream of earning a university degree and 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 being involved in your career and then having been denied. Where I conduct business, I see homeless people every day. I see people who have, because of mental insanity, excuse me, can't live the kind of life that I live. Can't work, can't earn money, can't, you know, have a home, regular meals, treats, snacks, things we take for granted. And it is sad. But the sad part is that the country is so poorly administrated that if it was better administrated, we'd be able to. So when you have these Democrats crying about this and crying about that, they're not, out for the little guy. They're not out for the homeless person. They're not out for the person who has, you know, whose diet has composed of drugs and alcohol for over 20 years and very little nutrition. When you're on the street, you're not eating that much, and that malnutrition complicates psychosis. These Democrats, they talk a good game, but they're really, if you pay attention, you realize all they're doing is talking. You don't need $11.5 trillion to help all the people in America who truly need help. There's people who just they can get a job and they can do for themselves, but there are people who honestly need help, and $11.5 trillion is not required. Uh, I mean, I know how to do math. I know how to add. I know how to subtract. Here in El Paso, Texas, I know what kind of an apartment they could get. They can afford an apartment for $400. I mean, there are affordable apartments for $400 that are not trash. They're not, what do you call those? Not roach motels. Well, the point here is that through media manipulation, we have been brainwashed into believing something. And a lot of what we're doing is a result of that brainwashing. And that is dangerous because it's a false reality. It's not a true reality. Corporations manipulate politicians, and that creates a certain economic environment. That's true. However, it's also true that we don't have to be part of that reality. We can make our own reality. There was a there was a small news report. I don't know what it was about, but it was talking about people who are being left out of the quote unquote American experience. You're only left out if you can't create your own reality. It sounds nice that you're going to go through early education up to high school, graduate high school, and go to college, and whatever it is, whether it's an associate's or a bachelor's or a certification program, whatever it is. And then once you graduate, you're going to go into the job market and you're going to build a reputation and a career in that job market. That's a nice little dream, but it's not reality for many people. But just because that's not a reality for a certain person doesn't mean there can't be another reality. I happen to believe that if corporations get out of hand, you and I can do business with each other. I said it before, neighborhoods across America should have homes where this person grows tomatoes and onions, this person grows bell peppers, that person over there grows corn, and someone else grows carrots and cabbage and whatever. And then everybody, here I'll give you a couple of onions for some cabbage, and this guy I'll give you a couple of bell peppers for some corn, and you don't have to go to the grocery store. Right there in your own little neighborhood, all you have to do is barter with your neighbor, and you can have all the vegetables that you like to eat. Doesn't involve the corporate world. Okay. Now, I've seen news stories of municipalities that legally restrict individuals to grow fruits and vegetables in the front yard, in their backyard, on their land. What possible reason could there be for a local government to make it a crime to grow food that helps you sustain life? Boy, today is going to be a real coffee fit. So you got to ask yourself, why do I think what I think? Are these really my genuine thoughts? Or are these the thoughts that have been put into my mind through music and television and movies and conservative talk radio and liberal talk radio? One of the things in this local debate between taxis and Uber and city council being involved and mayor being involved is, don't people have their own personal value system where they're able to recognize wrong from right and right from wrong and do the right thing? The right thing isn't to champion a company like Uber because they've been breaking the law. Doesn't matter how good their service is. Doesn't matter how many people like the service. They've been breaking the law, plain and simple. Somebody should be able to have their own personal value system to say, you cannot do this. We need you to follow the law because we are a society of law and order. We are a society of proper morality. We are a society of proper ethics. We all understand that it's our responsibility to contribute to a healthy society. Not a healthy society in terms of medicine, but a healthy society in terms of there being opportunities and advantages in careers and businesses and jobs and security and as low amount of crime as possible. But everybody's got their own excuse me. Everybody's got their own way of thinking. And in that way of thinking, according to their and if you look at our society today, we have to understand there's serious problems. I'm not of the mindset that it's over. I'm not. I think that there is still enough good, decent Americans that can save this country. The news media is doing everything possible to make Donald Trump look like a bad person. Donald Trump is an individual who wants to, who's concentrating on by telling people, I'm going to stop the political corruption that exists between, I'm going to stop the corrupt, that's what it is. I'm going to stop the corruption that exists between politicians and big corporations. Every single person who has been victimized, not fired, laid off, lives in an area where they're not able to find the kind of employment to find, should be championing Mr. Trump's efforts. On the issue of what Mr. Trump has said about Mexico. I was born in Mexico. I'll tell you the truth, it's legally imported into this country at 4 years old. When you're a 4-year-old and somebody tells you get into the car, most 4-year-olds will get in the car. As an adult, I was made aware that I didn't have the legal right to be in this country. When you've been living in a country as if you're part of that country, it is rather shocking to understand, to learn. Not only are you not a proper part of the country, but you need to fix something or get out. I was starting my life, 18 years old. Actually, on my birthday, I received a letter from the United States Immigration Service. That's what it was back then. And completely overwhelmed. What the hell do I do? How do I fix this? I haven't worked. Well, I had worked and I had stashed money because I believe that's the correct thing to do. When you work, you save. You don't work to spend, you work to save because you're going to need it. So I was saving money and people try to help me, said go here, go there. And then somebody said, hey, listen, we know this lawyer. So I went and talked to her. And she's the one that said, the lawyer, the person who knows the law, says you got nothing to worry about. So what do you mean I got nothing to worry about? Did you not read the letter? She says, listen, this is clean cut. When you were 4 years old, that car and that customs officer waved you into the country, he gave you the legal right to be in the country. I'm a lawyer. Didn't sound good to me. Yeah, okay. I guess I'll wait and see because I have nothing else to do but wait and see. And later, I got what I needed. And this person was such a great person. This lawyer was such a great person. He says, "Don't pay me until you have your document in your hand." I would go in every week. I thought, well, I'll go in a week and I'll give her this, and she'll believe that I'm going to pay her, and she'll continue to work my case. I went in and it here, what's this? It's your document. I paid my debt in full. But and I say that when you're trying to balance well, it's not an opinion. An opinion is something have when you don't know what the heck you're talking about. I've lived here. I lived in a border city, and I'm sort of laughing because you have all these people. Hillary Clinton has not lived. Hillary Clinton was not born in Mexico. Doesn't speak Spanish. Hasn't lived in an area where over 80% of the individuals have roots from Mexico. She doesn't know what the heck she's talking about. Again, if a law exists, a law has to be followed. That's right. That's knowing right from wrong. The people from Mexico who are in the United States of America know right from wrong. They know America has immigration laws. They know if they get caught, they're going to be arrested and deported. They're knowingly breaking the law. Okay, what's the motivation? You've been lied to. As a person who was born in Mexico, speaks Spanish, lived in a border town, talks to a lot of people, that's another thing. I'm not a person in a windowless office. I don't go to work and I'm in a windowless office and I don't talk, but maybe a few coworkers. No, that's never been me. I've always had public contact work. I've always heard what people have to say. I listen to a lot of individuals talking about how they're scamming the government or planning to scam the government. I'm not directly involved in the conversation. Sometimes I am. But for the most part, I'm where I am, and they're a couple of feet away from me in their little group talking about what they have done or what they plan to do in relation to scamming the American government. So I have a lot of experience about the morality and ethics from the people of Mexico. I also have a studied, educated understanding, not an opinion. I have 2 degrees in psychology. My whole life, well, not my whole life. I'm going to say 10 years old. For some odd reason, at 10 years old, I started paying attention to what was going on around me. I started paying attention to Chinese one-child policy. Started paying attention to the supposed Vietnam war against communism and Russia and World War II, World War One, and a lot of American historical figures. For some odd reason, even though I like psychology, even though right now I say that the most important thing is Christianity and salvation and faith, I started paying attention to politics and issues of society. And recently is when I honed down and I said, listen, a society is made of people. And people's individual attitude contributes to the status of society. With our negative attitude, how we behave, we're contributing to society. Nobody likes what Mr. Paul Ryan is doing. Nobody likes what Mr. Mitch McConnell is doing. Nobody liked what Mr. John Boehner was doing while he was in office. But the reality is that we were the problem. We've always been the problem, especially in a free society where you have not only the ability to put your political representatives in line, but you also have the moral obligation to do it. there was no reason for someone like Barack Hussein Obama to have ever been elected president of the United States of America. But because people make the choice of supporting someone that the news media cheerleads, individuals like Bill Clinton and Barack Hussein Obama get elected. People think that Bill Clinton was a good president. He wasn't. Bill Clinton, well, he was a wise person because he understood that the Congress was in charge. The Congress could overrule him, and the Congress would be the one getting all the positive points from what they were going to start doing. He understood that. So when the Congress sent him things to help the economy, he put a signature to it because he understood that if he did not put a signature to it, the impression would be that the Republicans in Congress were the ones doing this, and it helped. Um, let's be fair. George Bush came into office telling people that he was going to give back to them their tax dollars because the American government had a surplus. Well, the people need to understand that that was a fiscal year surplus. The America at 2000, when Mr. George Bush came into office, still owed $5.5 trillion their national debt. Surplus was just a surplus, an annual surplus. It wasn't that America didn't owe anything. That year, 2000 or 99, doesn't matter. For that year, the government was able to only spend less than what it took in. Now, if you're only looking at that year, it makes sense to give people back what the government took from them. However, if you understood that there was 5.5 trillion of the national debt still that needed to be paid, the better answer would have been to have paid into that $5.5 trillion. When Mr. Clinton left office, America owed 5.5 trillion. Okay. When Mr. Bush left office 8 years later, America only owed 8.5 trillion. That's only a $3 trillion addition. Not great. None of us want debt. None of us want government to be irresponsible in spending the taxpayers' money to the extent that there's debt. But it was only 3 million. So Mr. Bush and the other presidents throughout the history of the United States of America had only added to the national debt 8.5 trillion. Mr. Obama, in less than 7 years, added 11.5 trillion to the national debt, more than all presidents combined. And you have to look at this country and you have to ask yourself, does America look like somebody invested $11.5 trillion on her? And the basic answer is no. America does not look like somebody invested $11.5 trillion on her. Mr. Obama was only a lawyer. In his own memoirs or his biography, he says that when he had a job in the corporate world, he felt sick. He felt strange, out of his own world. And he quit. And then he was a part-time university instructor. People call him a professor. You can't call this guy a professor. He never worked for a university as an instructor for 10 years. He had his jurisprudence degree. He had his 8-year law degree. But he didn't work as a lawyer. He didn't have customers, clients. He didn't work for a corporation as a lawyer. He was a community organizer, quote unquote volunteer. So a person who did not have a business degree, never had gainful employment, and the people of the United States of America elected him as president, something has to be wrong in the thought process of Americans when they elect someone like that as president. People say that it was George Bush fatigue. No, it was not George Bush fatigue. It had nothing to do with George Bush. It had to do with the news media that manipulates people's thoughts and emotions. You got to ask yourself if what you believe is really what you believe or what you have been brainwashed into believing. You have to ask yourself that question. It, and the importance of the question is because it brings you face to face with your what you believe to be your personal belief system. Do you have a personal belief system of fairness? Do you have a good work ethic? Do you believe in freedom, liberty, and independence, even if it doesn't benefit you? And you have to work harder at something else. There's everybody should come to the conclusion that a person with 40-year business experience, with a bachelor's from a prestigious business university, with $10 billion qualifying his personal and professional success, is more than qualified to be president of the United States of America. Now, we have heard Mr. Donald Trump make concerning statements. I personally have used social media to ask Mr. Trump to focus on policy and not personal attacks. It doesn't do away with his 40-year business experience know-how. It doesn't do away with what he learned at a university. It has nothing to do with the fact that this man is smart enough that he was able to create $10 billion of worth. In the 40 years that he has been a business person, he has hired and fired many people. He's made choices that people have applauded, and he's made necessary choices that some people would not applaud. It has to happen. Whoever takes over the president, the office of the president of the United States of America, is going to be faced with cuts, spending cuts. Has to happen. Federal employees are going to lose their jobs, and they have to lose their jobs because the nation is in an economic crisis, and it's in an economic crisis because the Democrat Barack Hussein Obama had no administrative experience whatsoever. They don't know how to work with the Congress, and now we have the mess that we have. Hillary Clinton, the Democrat, is of the same mindset. And I have to do these because we're sort of losing. I have to do these videos because we're sort of losing, and somebody has to come and tell people, look, let's relax. Let's take a couple of deep breaths and let's understand what is happening. Okay? All we're talking about is the proper administration of the American government. We're not talking about the proper administration of American society because that's not a job for a president. Those are not the responsibilities of a president. Okay? The manner in which the Department of Transportation operates is the responsibility of the United States president. The manner in which the Department of Education operates is the responsibility of the president. The president is there as the chief executive officer of the American government. He's the one that's deciding if this needs to be cut or that over there needs to be cut. He's the one making the financial decisions of how to budget an American government so there isn't debt. The American people are not adversely affected by irresponsible spending, and America is strong enough to defend herself against all threats, foreign or domestic. Obama has been a very poor administrator, very poor in foreign affairs. He's made mistakes, and it's almost a miracle that we're not in all-out World War. I mean, if it wasn't such a little punk, little weakling, we probably would be in World War III. But there are intricate elements that contribute. Mr. Trump is correct in saying that America has trade negotiations that are not beneficial financially to the United States of America and not beneficial to the people of America as far as having employment, career opportunities, professional business opportunities. Can an individual in America work hard, save money, buy a business, and work hard at making that business succeed? mm, most people are struggling at doing it. Some people have done it. Most people are struggling at doing it. Is there an abuse and victimization of the American person by corporations? Yes, there is. I was having a conversation with an individual that works. Where did they tell me they work? They worked at a doctor's office, and they were sort of telling me a little bit about the inner politics of the office. And I told her, yeah, you're not an employee of a company anymore. Today, many people who have a job are forced to work long hours under miserable conditions. And the managers and directors and chief executive officers could give a damn if these people are happy or not, or are in a safe work environment. The attitude of a lot of people in charge of businesses now is, you know what, either toe the line or get the hell out. What are Americans supposed to do? You know, very few opportunities, and then the opportunities that exist, the majority of people are worse than slave masters. You're a human being, you're not a machine. If you have employees, understand that they're human beings, they're not machines. They could only do so much. No human being can work around the clock. You can't do 16 hours here, be told to go home and get 3 hours of another 4 hours, and then be told to go home and get 5 hours of sleep and come back for another 16 hours. That's inhumane. That's unhealthy. No person can do that. There's very little respect for the person in employment anymore. And then a lot of businesses just don't handle their business. The the dysfunction in the corporation comes from the top. I always told people, you air me into any system. I don't care what the system is. McDonald's, Walmart, Chase Bank, post office. I don't care what the system is. I'll find you the problem, and all I have to do is go over to administration. Administration is in charge. If there is low morale, if there's conflict among the workers, if there's poor customer service, administration is the one that's in charge. Administration is fully aware of what's going on in the business and doing everything possible for the business to work as a business should work. I don't want people to fall on the ground and start saying, "Oh, we're not worthy when I come into their business." But what became of basics, of a simple hello, of not running the customer over with the cleaning machine? Zero respect. And I firmly believe that these forces of information manipulation are making us angry and are making us, have animosity towards one another. And they're going to get what they want because we're going to go to war with each other. We're going to kill each other. And they're going to be the benefactors. So we need to calm down. We need to relax. We need to find Jesus. We need peace. We need to set some standards and say these standards are good standards, and we're going to fight for these standards. Among our standards cannot be hate of our neighbor. We need to be intellectuals. And I know people don't like when I say that. I've written certain articles and I've heard, the buzz about how, well, I don't need to be an intellectual. I can be emotional if I want. No, we don't need emotions. Emotions get us in trouble. I mean, and proper emotions probably are in trouble. But for the most part, fear are not required. Hate of our neighbor, not required. I don't much care for the politics of Hillary Clinton and her husband. I have no reason to hate them. When Mr. Mitt Romney ran for the presidency, I had a good professional opinion of the gentleman. Now that he's come out and tried to not that much. In fact, I used to say that the only thing that Mitt Romney needs is to leave the Mormon church, have a real encounter with Jesus Christ, and come to understand salvation and forgiveness and life after death by the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. The Mormon church, if you're in the Mormon church, get out. If you're in the Catholic church, get out. If you're in the Seventh-day Adventist, get out. If you're a Jehovah's Witness, get out. I know people don't like to hear that because they're emotionally tied. They're not emotionally tied to God. They're not emotionally tied to Jesus Christ. God's not going to hurt you. There's no interest in harming you. But it does bring me to the next point. I wrote some articles telling the reader that you don't have to be aligned with Jesus Christ to have a stress-free life and to have a decent life. That was possible through understanding psychology and human psychological processes and changing our negative attitude to a positive attitude and having hope and being realistic. And realistic is about being grateful for what we have and enjoying it, and how we can employ simple pressures of life in our daily lives as a means to enjoy life, to make life a pleasurable life, to have fun. That's the last thing that I attached to it. That life should be a life where we pursue healthy fun in order to be healthy people, to not feel bad. It is better to laugh. It feels better to laugh than to cry. Sometimes we do need to cry, but the majority of our life, we should be laughing and we should be experiencing life on what is good and healthy. Okay, I have been corrected by God, and the correction is that it is required of all of us to have God in our life, because there is serious negative consequences when we don't have a personal relationship with God. Now, I always try to tell people, look, I'm not preaching religion. If you accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, that's a good thing. I'm not here to force him on you, but he did tell me that, and it's throughout the people who question God throughout the Old Testament don't understand. God of the Old Testament was not a God of wrath. He was an actual God of love who was trying to keep people away from the things that could destroy them. And sometimes, in order to keep us away from the things that could destroy us, required a global flood. If you know your Bible, God says, for all flesh has given itself over to evil. Okay, that was the need for the flood. All flesh had given itself over to evil. So the human race in totality was in danger. And we are living our time where it appears that not all flesh, but a significant majority of flesh has given itself over to evil. We're seeking pleasure in order to mask the pain. And we're seeking extreme pleasure because the pain is so extreme. And if we realize that we have the power to deal with that pain and suffering, we would deal with the pain and suffering, so we're not being pressured and seeking cheap thrills. When you're doing whatever it is you're doing, laughing with your friends, smoking marijuana, I'm going to say this, a lot of people engage in orgies. When you're doing this stuff, it has the appearance that it's pleasurable and it's okay. After the fact is when you realize it really wasn't what you were looking for. And the reason that people go from, a little bit of decadence to a large amount of decadence is because 1,000 times more pleasure will help me deal with this uh, person, and it doesn't. Of angry, decadent individuals who don't have a personal relationship with God and who are getting ready to declare war on each other. And the only people who are going to win are the corrupt politicians and the corrupt business people. When are you going to get your hands on Bill Gates? You're never going to get your hands on Bill Gates. His security will kill you before you even get near him. But your neighbor can come over right now, frustrated, angry that you're a conservative, that you're a Christian, and shoot you. And for that matter, a liberal probably has the same fear or the same potential probability of experiencing violence by somebody who thinks that they're right because their philosophy tells them that they're right, but they will never question if that philosophy is actually right. If it's more to do with media manipulation and brainwashing than to actual personal belief. If your personal belief involves violence, your personal belief is wrong. I believe in self-defense. When somebody comes to attacks me, I believe I have the right to defend myself. I'm not going to go out and look for people to attack. If your personal belief involves violence, you're wrong. It's not a time for violence, not a time for anger, it's not a time for rage. It's time to question why it is we're feeling what we feel and why it is we think what we think. You know, it's one of these, let's try it that way. It's one of these things that we have to understand that we're part of society, and what we do either contributes to a good society or it contributes to a bad society. There's nothing wrong with Mr. Donald Trump. I wish he wouldn't say some of the things that he does. I wish he would pay more attention to policy issues. Um, Hillary Clinton doesn't have the right policies that will help America, and that's the issue. The economic crisis that America in is the issue. Around the world, citizens and leaders need to work together to deal with the challenges in their region. You know, the people of Afghanistan need to police their own. The people of Iraq need to police their own. The people of Iran need to police their own. And the people of the United States of America need to police their own. And the people of Mexico need to police their own. Each area having responsible people making healthy, productive societies. You can't have all these individuals being irresponsible and letting their societies completely decay and deteriorate, and then holding Americans responsible for all of that mess. Americans are not responsible for anything that has happened in Mexico. The people of Mexico are the ones who are responsible for what has happened in Mexico. And as far as what Mr. Trump has said on murder, rape, and thieves, he's right. A large percentage of the members of Mexico have very poor morality, very poor ethics, and a large percentage of those people are coming to the United States of America. One of the interesting things, and I'm going to go ahead and close, one of the interesting things is that through there have Cuban people going through El Paso, Texas, and passing through in front of where I conduct business. And again, I'm here and they're about 4 feet away, and I can hear the conversation. I'm not eavesdropping. You'd have to be dead not to understand what they're talking about. And one of the interesting things is these people who are waiting for family members who are coming from Cuba speak with a lot of animosity towards the people of Mexico. And they speak with a lot of animosity towards the people of the United States of America. And of course, my attitude is you come from a corrupt country. You come from a country you allowed to become corrupt. What about how many soldiers Fidel Castro has or his brother has? The reality is that there are always more citizens than military personnel. The only problem is lack of unity, and lack of unity under particular good standards. So we need to set these standards, and we need to work together with the people who value these standards. Not the time to give ourselves over to our worst behaviors. It's not the time to let evil consume us. We have to. We're building. We're builders. We're not destroyers. People like Hillary Clinton are destroyers. They have no real interest in helping anybody but themselves. If Bill and Hillary Clinton had an interest in helping people, they would help people. They would have 5 million in the bank, and they would have given away 200 million. You can live okay on 5 million. Heck, I live okay on the less. Don't ask me if I give. Every time I pay taxes, I give. I think I covered the issues that I wanted to cover. I have to be more regular, more consistent in this. The live streaming that the video is uploaded to YouTube, it does concern me. The information needs to get out. There's too many people trying to convince us of this and of that, and we just have to use our own common sense and have a foundation of you don't want to harm me, and I hope we can work together as decent people, as good people, to protect a great country. Thank you for listening, and I wish you well.